What's going on YouTube? I know it's been literally an eternity and a half since I last uploaded. I had some stuff going on in my personal life and I hadn't really had a big ambition for recording, or I was feeling kind of lazy, and I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh here and there, but I haven't been like super invested in it up until recently. I was really interested in like the Unchained deck. I was playing that a lot. When they hit Shavar to 1, I was kind of upset, but I found that I liked this deck a lot, Snake Eyes Fire King. And actually we ended up hitting a really big milestone. I've never really done well at big events before. If you know me, you know that I always get absolutely destroyed round 1 for like whatever reason, either by bricking or by like just kind of some BS, etc. That always kind of screws me over for like the whole event. But I finally managed to clutch it out at the Santa Clara Regional, and I actually got 12th out of like 560 people, which for me is crazy. I never really thought I'd get that far, to be honest. I thought I would get destroyed again or whatever, but it turns out the deck was really consistent and performant, and I was able to play through like all the different hand traps and stuff like that. This deck is insane. You can play through like 3 hand traps like it's nothing. They definitely have to hit this deck for sure. But anyways, I'll get straight into it. The deck is pretty standard aside from a few small changes that I made, so keep an eye out for those. I'll just hop on into it really quickly. First off, we have the very standard stuff: triple ash, double poplar, 1 oak, and 1 flame birch. I mean, this is pretty standard stuff. Nothing really to report here. Thought about cutting ash down to 1 because it's kind of a brick. No, I'm just kidding. Deck is pretty consistent with just this standard lineup. You can play 2 flame birch if you want, but it felt kind of bricky. Next up is the Fire King stuff. We have 1 Ponix, 1 Arvada, 2 Kirin. I felt like 3 was cloggy, and then the 1 Garunix. Pretty standard as well. I know that a lot of people opt to side out the Fire King stuff when they're playing against like the mirror match and stuff like that, but I like keeping it in because it gives you a lot more options, a lot of destruction. Like for example with Kirin, to pop like back row and stuff that normally you can't really get around, or this deck kind of struggles with back row a little bit, like getting rid of it and kind of playing. I mean, you can play through back row, but it struggles with like outing things that are really important to out, like outing their temple, etc. Or if you even want to try to go for like their own Fire King Island, stuff like that, you can use Kirin to pop that. Garunix is honestly one of the most MVP cards. I mean, he just puts in a lot of work whenever he's in rotation. Next up for the Diabell Star, we have the 2 witches. I felt like 3 was kind of cloggy, and also, to be honest, I just didn't want to buy a 3rd witch because I felt like 2 was enough. And the 3 wanted spell, this card's absolutely busted. Gives you a free draw, searches the witch. It's pretty much free. I mean, they can Ash or Bell it, I guess, if they really want to, but sometimes you even have the witch already in hand anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Also, one thing to mention too is that this can also recycle from banish. So if you have like a turn where like you use the original effect in graveyard to search, and after that you can go water to put it back and then draw, or like if they cosmic your original, you can still get it back, which is absolutely disgusting. Next up, as far as the Sinful Spoil spells, or Snake Eye spells, whatever you want to call them, we have the 1 OSS and then the 1 Temple. Pretty standard. Temple goes nuts. It helps you play around Nib, everything like that, so I would never cut this. I think it's busted. I actually didn't play it at YCS Vegas, and I regretted it a lot. Next up for the Fire King spells, 1 Sanctuary, 1 Island. I guess you can maybe cut this. I like having it as an additional, like, I guess, body or an extra material to send off, like, Oak or something. Plus the protection that comes up every, like, once in a while. Next up, we have some of the, I guess, the more powerful spells. 2 Bonfire. I originally only had 1. That was because I didn't want to buy a 2nd one, because I think this card's kind of shit, to be honest. Like, after fire format, like what are you actually using this in? Like searching in Infernoids? Okay, that's cute, I guess. But it's only really good right now in this format, which is why it's like really expensive. So I didn't really want to buy a 2nd one, so I actually borrowed one from my buddy. Shoutouts to Melvin for letting me borrow his Bonfire, because I think 2 is consistent and 3 is overkill, especially in a deck. This deck kind of loses a little bit harder to draw than like the pure one does, so I think that's why 2 Bonfire really helped out, and I did end up seeing them quite a bit, so that helped out a lot. Next up for the Power 1 of spells, we have the 1 Talents, 1 Called By, and then 1 for 1. Oh, oops, sorry. Missed one and got caught up in here. And then 1 Monster Reborn. So Talents is obviously insane. I had Talents at 2 when I only had 1 Bonfire. So you could do that if you really wanted to. Called By is obvious. 1 for 1 I ended up putting in because I like the fact that you can have more access to Ponix, because sometimes you have to use your OSS package to just get to like the normal like Snake Eye engine. And then after that you don't have any of the Fire King stuff set up, but that's the stuff that really gives you the extra advantage with this deck. So I liked having the additional option to try to get to Ponix in case something, in case I got like hand trapped to death. And then lastly, Monster Reborn is an extender. This card's busted. It helps me push through things I probably shouldn't have. Like I can overextend through Nib and not have to worry about it because I have Monster Reborn. Going 2nd, this card's a nutty. I can like reborn a Fenrir, I can reborn a Princess, I can reborn anything that's used. Reborn an Oak sometimes just for extension, which is crazy. Not to mention that I did play a match against Marincess where they had me waterlocked under the water statue, and obviously I had no resources to like get into like water monsters, so I actually ended up monster reborning their monster and then beating over the statue. Then after that I could play, so this card came up clutch. Next up for the non-engine, we have the pretty standard triple imperm, triple Veiler, triple Ash, triple Nib, and then we have a triple of a card that I think is absolutely busted and I think goes underrated, and that's going to be Econ. This card is actually insane. I found myself initially citing this a lot. Like I had it on my side at first at YCS Vegas, and it came up a lot. Shout out to my buddy Irvin, who actually ended up doing a deck profile for the last Santa Clara regionals that he won. Not the last Santa Clara one, but there was a regionals recently that he won with Kashtira. So that profile is also on the channel if you want to go check that out. But he actually put me on Econ right before YCS Vegas, and this card put in a lot of work. And ever since then, I kept this card on my side, and I found myself always studying it in games 2 and 3. And I wanted like another like disruption card that wasn't a crossout target, because everybody's running crossout right now. So if I put Warner in here, it's gonna get crossed out. If I kept Droll in, first of all, I feel like Droll is kind of low impact this format. So if keeping Droll in kind of felt bad. I tried Kuro, I didn't really like it that much. It felt situational. And I was thinking, okay, well, if I'm just putting this in games 2 and literally almost every game 2 and 3, then why not just main it? Screw it, right? Because you can't cross this out. Like nobody's gonna cross this out. Plus, if you go second, this helps your Ash resolve like almost like 99% of the time, because they're almost always gonna like imperm Ash, you know, whatever, some type of like full on like monster negate, because obviously Ash has 2 like really good effects, so they want to try to hit both with like, you know, with one card if they can. So this helped dodge all that all the time. If they set up an Oppo on their turn, I normal summon Ash, they go Veiler, I go Econ, and then take their Oppo, and now they're just cooked. So this card is absolutely insane. Also, I've done stuff like take people's Shang, link it off into Hida take back their Shang and go into a Princess, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So this card just came in absolutely clutch. Shout out to my boy Irvin for putting me on Econ. Next up, we have the extra deck. First up is Fucko Bird. Honestly, this card sucks. I don't know. I had it in here for like Shifter and stuff. I had like a 1-of slot that I was kind of unsure about. This was Heat Soul, but I found myself almost never going into Heat Soul, so I wanted something in case I played against like Shifter decks. I expected to see a lot more. I only saw 2 Kashtira, and none of them shifted me, so I didn't really end up using this. There's also a line you can do with the standard stuff through Shifter, like the Snake Eye search Pop search the Temple place Oak, and then you link into IP, then you have plays on their turn. But I wanted something additional in case I just kind of got stopped in like weird places, or just something to be able to like live like through Shifter. There was like 1 or 2 games where I could have like maybe made this, but it didn't end up mattering anyway because I was so far behind that it wouldn't have saved me. So honestly, you can cut this, but I just wanted it in case I saw like a lot of Shifter decks. Next up for the Link 1s, pretty standard. Link Kribo and Anima. This card put in a little bit of work. I also liked it because if I did nip somebody, I just knew I had an immediate out with Relinquished Anima by putting the token in their Anima column. So I like this a lot for that reason. Plus, a lot of people still play into this, or like they end up spamming bodies anyway, so they can't like avoid playing into this. So you just help clear their bodies. And with this deck, it's so easy to OTK them if they have like 1 or 2 monsters on board, that clearing out like 3 or 4 bodies, just helping out with that, plus getting material to send for like Oak and stuff, I felt like was really impactful. And I felt like it was worth a slot. Next up for the Link 2s, Nightmare Phoenix, probably one of the most goated cards in the deck, helps you OTK really easily. Zealantis plus Phoenix plus Rage Engrave is OTK. So you just attack, Zealantis effect pop, bring back Salamangreat, attack, GG's. And so that's why I like this a lot. Plus Phoenix gives you an extra draw if you're if he's under like a Princess, or if he's under like Appaloosa or whatever. So if you pop a back row, and then you also get a draw, which is really nice for keeping up card advantage. Dark, because Dark's busted. IP, obviously. Wolf, I almost never really use Wolf all that much. There's probably lines that can use him more, that can use him better, but I just end up usually not going for those lines. I'm not super like comfortable with those lines, so it's kind of more of like a me thing. But he's there for recursion. Recurring in Ash is like really nice sometimes. Hida, because Hida's also busted right now, and SP because this card's goated. This card should be banned, to be honest. For the Link 3s, obviously just the 2 Princess. I think the second one, it came up one time where someone nipped me before I used the effect. So I was able to go into a second one because I had Oak off the Temple, and then I was able to just continue comboing and stuff like that. So the second one does come up. Also, it means that if you get Kashtira ripped, they don't really go for this. They usually go for like Zealantis, which is fine. I'd rather have this than my Zealantis because I can still OTK even without Zealantis. And then lastly, the Link 4s, we have the pretty standard lineup. Whale, I think Whale is pretty busted. I don't really use it. I don't really use the effects all that much. I just use them to just like link into something on my end board. That way I have like access to them if I need it. But it usually doesn't end up coming up all that much. But also makes them play weird sometimes to try to like not trigger this. And a lot of people don't realize that sometimes when you're trying to trigger this effect, you have Promethean up on board already. And so they don't realize that you're fire locked, and they think that you can just summon like whatever Link 2 you want from the grave. So they try to like do like weird shit to this to like stop it from proccing, when in reality they can just, you know, pretty much like pop it like whenever if you have Princess on board, and then it doesn't really matter because there's not a whole lot you can summon off of this, but some people just don't realize that. Also, the second effect is busted. Lastly, for the side, we have the 3 Droll. I wanted something against like bullshit decks. Last time I went to regionals, I played Unchained, and I had 3 Drolls in the main, and I ended up playing against like a Dark World player, but I never saw Droll, and so I ended up getting like Henry for 5 like twice, and I was like, what the fuck, this is stupid. So I had it for like bullshit decks like Vanadium. It only resolved maybe like once or twice, to be honest. Not that great of a card right now. I don't think it helped against like a Purely player maybe, and then like maybe like a Marincess or something like that. I forget what, but or maybe like Voiceless, I don't remember, but it didn't really come up all that much, but just kind of something extra for like bullshit decks. The 3 Monarchs, I wanted something like kind of like a time card plus like something impactful in general, so this is just good to side in against, you know, obviously like almost any matchup aside from like Flunder, obviously. Also this hurts like Flunder, which is really important, I think, to help like in case you don't get Shifter. It's kind of your best hand trap for them. But I never side this in against Cash because I feel like Cash always has Shifter on me, and I'd rather just not have a dead card. I'd probably I usually just side these in for Cash because these can still resolve under Shifter. Next up are some goated 1-ofs: Pankratops, Clara, Duster. Duster's just good in general. Clara, I liked it because it was a searchable 1-of, and I had one more slot here for, I didn't really know what to put here. I think I used to have like a Agave Dragon for time, but since I was running 3 Mourner, I was like, I don't think I need Agave. But Pank honestly went in pretty hard against one of the Cash players. He ended up ending on, he bricked really hard game 2. He ended on Rise Heart with 2 set. I had Pank in hand, I special Pank, and he had to solemn it because his other set was Summon Limit. So if he let this stay on the board, then obviously whenever he tries to flip Summon Limit, I'm just gonna pop it with Pank. So he had to just automatically solemn this, which was crazy. Clara put in work too against a different Cash player. He ended up setting up like a really like wide, he ended up doing like the whole like the Cyber garbage stuff, I think, where you go like, you know, like Oppo with like, I think he had like Unicorn Fenrir, and then, or I think he had like Shang, or no, yeah, it was like Shang, Fenrir, and then obviously he got like Unicorn on my turn or whatever. So I baited out everything, and I just carded him for like 4 monsters and just attacked for game. It was disgusting. Triple Cyclone, because Cyclone's like the best card in the game right now. You could honestly main these. I thought about maining these instead of the Econ, and I wouldn't have been disappointed, I don't think. But regardless, I think the Econ went absolutely ham. And lastly, the Summon Limit. I fucking hate this card, to be honest. I think it's like degenerate and like not fun. But I had Anti-Spell in here, and it wasn't doing enough work. And so every time, and I kept on getting Summon Limited like during at locals and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. If you can't beat it, just join them. So I just played the Summon Limit. And of course I put in work. It's a Floodgate. I hate that you have to play it. Hopefully Konami hits this. I hate that Floodgates. I hate the Floodgates you can just set after you set up a whole board, and then you're just like, oh, play through this, bozo. I'm like, okay, man, fuck you. But unfortunately, it is just a kind of the current evil that we have right now in the format. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, for the most part, pretty standard aside from like the Econs, which, like I said, absolutely just destroyed during the tourney. We ended up going 8-2, and I think I got really lucky, to be honest. I won like something like 6 or 7 die rolls, and I had so many times where I had like one starter in hand, like I'd have something like a Snake Eyes Ash or some shit, and like 3 hand traps and like, I don't know, something else. And I'd be like, this needs to resolve or like I lose the game, and every time it ended up resolving. So and every time that they did have like more hand traps, I had like enough gas to play around it. So I think I just got like really lucky, to be honest. But obviously, you know, I had to practice and like play the lines and make sure I knew how to do everything properly. And there were some like pretty like close games that were pretty wild, especially like my round 10 against my Centurion opponent. I did top deck the Econ, which allowed me to play through his stand-up because I was able to try to attempt to take his Primera, so that way he couldn't synchro during my turn. So that came up clutch. We were in like a super grindy game, so it ended up winning me the game, which then got me 12 plays, which I think Econ's just goated for that. Oh, not to mention, you have a really sick thing you can do with Econ, where if you get like hand trapped to death and all you have on board is a witch, and you can set the Econ, and you feel like another card in hand or whatever, when your opponent's comboing, you just Econ take whatever like is the most important combo piece, and then so for example, you take like their monster, and then on resolution you go Diabellstar effect to come back by setting a card, and you just tribute their monster, and then you put her back. Then after that, you can use her effect to then set OSS, and then that way you have access to it on your turn. So it's really disgusting, like the stuff you can do like that. Plus you can also use it as like material for like your IP or whatever. So there's a lot of gross things you can do with Econ that I think really came in clutch. But overall, that's it. Like I said, the deck performed insanely well. It gave me pretty much all the starters I needed whenever I needed them, as well as the hand traps and stuff to play around things. I only lost to one voiceless voice matchup, which was really bad because game 3 I bricked really hard. I had something like double hand trap, summon limit, called by like talents or something like really bad like that. So I just couldn't play the game. I lost another game to Pure Snake, or another match to Pure Snake Eyes. He just played it really well. He had more hand traps than me sometimes, and he had like called by and cross out at the right times. But he also played it really well, so I don't want to take that away from him. So I think those are kind of matches I couldn't do a whole lot about, unfortunately. But you know, it is what it is. Big tourney, 10 rounds, which was insane, absolutely tiring. One thing I want to do for the channel too is put together like a Unchained kind of like playbook. I think there's a lot of people who are trying to lab on Unchained right now, but putting in a bunch of like weird shit. I'm not a huge fan of like the DDD package right now because it's super bricky. I have other ideas I've been working on that I think work out pretty well, I think. So if you guys want to see that, it's something like maybe like 1 hour or 2 hours of just like, hey, this is the list I've considered. These are the ones I've gone through. This is what I think. Here's some combos you can do with different stuff or whatever. Please let me know in the comments. I love Unchained to death. I was playing that deck for like 3 or 6 months up until Shavara got hit. Then I realized that I just couldn't compete because the fire deck is just way too consistent, way too grindy, that Unchained just can't compete with it, unfortunately. I really wanted to play it though, and honestly, maybe I could have because I only saw two Snake Eyes matches the whole event. So I think honestly, maybe I could have played Unchained. But regardless, if you guys want to see that, just feel free to let me know in the comments. All right, catch you guys later.